Picture this: a quiet, peaceful suburban neighborhood. The lawns are pristine, the hedges are perfectly trimmed, and the only sound you hear is the gentle chirping of birds. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, for the residents of the Maple Creek community, this idyllic quiet was about to become a battleground. And it all started with a single piece of paper pinned to the community bulletin board. The notice was from the Homeowners Association, the HOA. It was short, direct, and to the point. Effective immediately, the use of all gasoline-powered leaf blowers is prohibited. Please switch to electric or battery-operated models to maintain community tranquility. On the surface, it seemed reasonable. Who doesn't want less noise? But for many residents, this wasn't about tranquility. It was about control. This was the latest in a long line of increasingly strict rules. First, it was the approved paint colors for your front door. Then, it was the maximum height for your garden gnomes. Now, they were coming for the leaf blowers. For a resident named Bob, a retired mechanic who took immense pride in his yard, this was the final straw. Bob looked at his trusty, gas-powered leaf blower. It wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of his weekend ritual, a powerful ally in his yearly battle against the autumn leaves. An electric one? He'd tried them. For his large yard, dotted with ancient oak trees, they just didn't have the horsepower. It would be like trying to put out a bonfire with a water pistol. He knew he wasn't alone. His neighbor, Sarah, a single mom who juggled 2 jobs, relied on her gas blower to clear her yard in the 30 precious minutes she had on a Sunday afternoon. And Mr. Henderson down the street, well into his 80s, couldn't manage the heavy batteries of the newer models. The HOA, in its quest for quiet, had completely ignored the practical needs of the people living there. That evening, Bob did something he hadn't done in years. He walked over to Sarah's house and together they went to visit Mr. Henderson. Over a cup of tea, a plan began to form. It wasn't a plan of defiance, not yet. It was a plan of communication. They decided to petition the HOA to make them understand the real-world impact of their new rule. They spent the next week knocking on doors, not with anger, but with a simple question. How does the leaf blower ban affect you? The stories poured in. People felt unheard, controlled, and frustrated. The petition grew, signature by signature, until nearly every household in Maple Creek had signed it. This wasn't just about lawn equipment anymore. It was about community, and whether the HOA served the residents or ruled over them. They presented the petition at the next HOA meeting. The board, led by the notoriously stern Mrs. Davison, was not impressed. "Rules are rules," she stated, looking down her nose at the thick stack of papers. "We are maintaining the high standards of this community." The board voted to uphold the ban. The message was clear. Your concerns don't matter. The room was thick with disappointment. As they filed out, Bob felt a surge of frustration, but also a spark of an idea. If the HOA wouldn't listen to their words, maybe they'd listen to something else. The following Saturday morning was crisp and clear, a perfect autumn day. At precisely 9 a.m., a familiar roar echoed through Maple Creek. It was Bob, starting up his gas-powered leaf blower. But he wasn't alone. A moment later, another engine roared to life from Sarah's yard. Then another from down the street, and another. Soon the entire neighborhood was filled with the powerful hum of dozens of gas leaf blowers, a symphony of suburban defiance. They weren't just blowing leaves, they were making a statement. Residents came out of their houses, not to complain but to watch, some with smiles, others with fists raised in solidarity. It was beautiful, noisy, and utterly rebellious. This was the morning of the Great Leaf Blower Rebellion. The HOA was furious. Fines were issued, threatening letters were sent. But the residents held firm. Every Saturday, like clockwork, the chorus of leaf blowers would begin. The rebellion started to get creative. Someone designed T-shirts with a picture of a leaf blower and the words, "Don't tread on my lawn." Another organized a blow-in, where residents gathered in the park, blowers in hand, for a community cleanup and a barbecue. The local news even showed up, and suddenly, Maple Creek's little dispute was a story about homeowners standing up to overreaching HOAs. The community, once divided by fences and petty rules, was now more united than ever. They were talking to each other, helping each other, and laughing together. The rebellion had ironically created the very sense of community the HOA claimed to protect. Faced with mounting pressure, media attention, and a community that was completely united against them, the HOA board had no choice. They called an emergency meeting. This time, the tone was different. There was no condescension, no dismissiveness. They listened. Bob, Sarah, and others spoke eloquently about the need for compromise. They weren't asking for a free-for-all. They were asking for reasonable rules that worked for everyone. They proposed a solution: designated hours for gas-powered blowers, a few hours on a Saturday morning, a few on a weekday afternoon. It was a simple, elegant compromise that respected both the need for powerful equipment and the desire for peace and quiet. After a long deliberation, the board voted. This time the motion passed. The ban was lifted, replaced by the new schedule. A cheer erupted in the room. The rebellion was over. They had won. The following Saturday, at 9 a.m., the sound of leaf blowers once again filled the air. But this time, it wasn't a sound of defiance. It was a sound of community, of compromise, and of a neighborhood that had found its voice. It was a reminder that sometimes, to be heard, you have to make a little noise. The residents of Maple Creek learned that a true community isn't built on silent, perfect lawns, but on listening to one another and working together. And it all started with a few neighbors who decided that their voices, and their leaf blowers, would not be silenced. Thanks so much for watching our story today. If you enjoyed this tale of community and standing up for what's right, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We love sharing stories like this, and your support helps us bring more of them to you. Drop a comment below and let us know. What is the craziest HOA rule you've ever heard of? We'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.